You know, the greatest writers don't just write books. They start conversations that last for generations. It's like they light a torch. But what happens after those masters are gone? Who picks up that torch and carries it forward? Well, today, let's dive in and find out who those heirs are, the writers who took that flame and lit their own path.
So, you got Anton Chekhov, James Joyce, and Ernest Hemingway. These three didn't just perfect the short story, they basically created a living, breathing tradition. They laid down the tracks, and a whole new generation of writers followed. But they weren't just imitating them. Oh no. They were arguing with them, twisting their ideas, and building something totally new on the foundations they left behind.
And that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, it's one thing to be influenced by someone, but it's a whole other thing to take that influence and forge your own unique voice. Today, we're going to trace the lineage of these giants and meet their direct literary descendants.
So our first stop follows the legacy of Chekhov and Joyce. These are the writers who are just fascinated by our inner lives. You know, those quiet moments of revelation, the messiness of cultural identity, and all the clever ways we manage to deceive ourselves.
And we're kicking things off with an author who absolutely mastered that blend of insight and self-deception. The brilliant and, let's be honest, pretty unsettling Flannery O'Connor.
What's so amazing about O'Connor is how she takes Chekhov's genius for exposing self-deception and just drops it right into the American South. Her characters are so confident, absolutely certain they have the world all figured out, right up until the moment some shocking, often violent event completely shatters their reality. She gives Chekhov's psychological insight this sharp, theological twist that ends up being, both funny and terrifying.
If you want to dive headfirst into that unsettling brilliance, trust me, A Good Man Is Hard to Find is the perfect, unforgettable place to start.
Okay, next up is an author who's often given one of the highest compliments you can get in literature, the one and only Alice Munro.
People call her the Chekhov of the English language, and for good reason. Her stories, they just feel huge. They don't capture a single moment. They feel like they capture an entire lifetime. Munro's real genius is how she structures her stories, kind of like human memory, jumping forward, circling back, and slowly building up all these small, ordinary details that by the end give you the emotional punch and wisdom of a full-length novel. To really get a feel for her unique power, the collection Runaway is just a masterful place to begin.
All right, let's turn to our next author, Mavis Gallant, who really picks up on that classic Joycean theme of exile and being away from home.
Gallant was a Canadian who spent most of her life in Paris, so she was a true master of displacement. Just like Joyce, she was fascinated by what happens to your sense of self when you're far from home. Her characters are always grappling with their heritage. It's something they're proud of, but it also causes them deep confusion. And she captures all of this with prose that is incredibly precise, super witty, and often just quietly heartbreaking.
For a taste of that elegant and devastating style, you really don't have to look any further than The Ice Wagon Going Down the Street.
Staying in Ireland, we get to meet another successor to Joyce, but this one has a totally different emotional feel to him, Frank O'Connor.
And this little comparison just nails the difference. While Joyce often looked at Ireland with this ironic, almost unforgiving eye, O'Connor finds this deep warmth and humanity in the everyday lives of its people. His stories are just full of priests and schoolchildren and families, and he explores them all with a kind of tenderness that really sets him apart.
His story, Guests of the Nation, is an absolute classic of the form, and really an essential read.
And finally, in this tradition of insight, we've got a contemporary master who kind of draws from both sides of the trail, Jhumpa Lahiri. So here's the thing about Lahiri. It's how she weaves these two legacies together that's so incredible. She writes about this profound experience of cultural betweenness, of being caught between two worlds. From Joyce, she gets this super keen eye for domestic rituals and traditions. And from Chekhov, she inherits this incredible sensitivity to the quiet, unspoken feelings between people. It's just a really powerful combination. Her Pulitzer Prize-winning collection, Interpreter of Maladies, is really the perfect introduction to her work.
Okay, let's switch gears. We're going to leave that world of inner thoughts and step onto a very different path, one forged by Ernest Hemingway, where the real story is told in what's left unsaid.
Hemingway's great gift to writing was what we call the iceberg method. The idea is simple but so profound. You only show the very tip of the story, and you let all the immense weight and meaning lie unseen deep beneath the surface. It's all about this idea that what isn't said is way more important than what is.
And the writer who took that method and pushed it to its absolute bone-chilling limit was Raymond Carver. Carver's stories are just these masterpieces of minimalism. I mean, he didn't just adopt the iceberg method, he kind of perfected it. He applied it to the lives of working-class Americans who often couldn't find the words for their own quiet desperation. The stories are so bare, so stripped down, they almost feel like blueprints rather than the full story. And in that empty space, the silences become absolutely deafening. As one critic powerfully put it, his characters live in rooms where the silence itself means something so heavy and painful that no one wants to name it.
To feel that emotional weight for yourself, his iconic story, Cathedral, is an absolute must-read.
So, there you have it. 6 brilliant authors, 2 totally distinct traditions, all carrying that torch forward. We've covered a lot of ground, so let's put it all together in a nice, simple starter pack for you.
Here it is. This is your roadmap. Whether you're in the mood for the theological terror of Flannery O'Connor, the novel-like scope of Alice Munro, or the crushing silence of Raymond Carver, this list is your gateway. It's your ticket to understanding how the modern short story grew up. Each name here is a whole new world to discover.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. This isn't a closed book, right? It's an ongoing conversation. Every story you read is part of a tradition, and every new writer out there has a chance to start another one. The only question is, what's that next tradition going to look like?